Very good evening. Today I'm going to discuss the topic constructor. Before we start discussion regarding the topic constructor, let me remind you the topic class and object, which are the two basic features of object oriented programming. When I discussed about the feature of object oriented programming, I mentioned class, object, inheritance, polymorphism, then abstraction encapsulation, then dynamic binding, and lastly the message bus. So in today's class we are basically focusing on the first two features of this object oriented programming language. One is class, another one is object. What is a class? Actually, a class is nothing but a template. A class is nothing but a template for creation and object. Class is nothing but a template for creation of an object. And these two features, classes and objects, are the basic concepts of object oriented programming, which revolve around the real life entities. The formal definition of classes, if we if you think about the formal definition of a class is a user defined blueprint or prototype. A class is a user defined or blueprint, user defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. Once again, I am repeating, a class is a user defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. It represents what a class consists. A class consists the data members and methods. And again, I'm repeating, a class consists data members and methods that are common to all objects. That are common to all objects. Of one type. That are common to all objects of one type. So what is a class? It is a user defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. It represents what it represents, the set of properties or methods that are common to all objects of one type, of better to say of similar type. If you consider an example of a class, the very good example for you is the name of the class is student. If you consider a class student, the name of the class is student. What are the properties of the student class? Properties means the member variables of the class. The member variables of the class you may consider, say ID, name, address, phone number. These are the member variables of the class. And when you are creating object from this class students, this member variables is very common to all the objects which belongs to the class student. So next question come, what is the meaning of an object? The meaning of an object is, it is nothing but an instance of a class. It is nothing but an instance of a class. What is the meaning of this line? If you put the value of the properties of these class members, what I considered in my example, the class attributes, or better to say member variables, are ID, name, address, phone number. These are the member variables. If I put the value of this member variable, say I put the value of ID equal to 1, name equal to ABC, address equal to say Kolkata, phone number equal to say 12345. So I am basically representing a student whose roll number is 1 and name is ABC, and this is the details of roll number 1 student. Similarly, if I put the value of ID 2, name XYZ, address say Howrah, phone number say 56789, so I am representing another student. In this way, we can represent n number of students from a class named student, which shares each and every student that I have created from the class student. All of them are shares the same attributes, better to say same member variables. I haven't talked about any methods or functions. I will introduce the methods and functions in the example when I discuss the example regarding this class and object. Try to remember, try to understand the only this part regarding the part of member variables. So these are the member variables, or rather you can say these are the attributes of the class. Fine. So far, the program that we have done in the laboratory class is consisting only one class, which is called main class. Why it is called main class? Because our main method is defined under the class, under that particular class. So it consists only one class which have our main method. So that's why it is called main class. And earlier, at the time of discussion of the main classes, or rather main method, I mentioned that a Java program can have n number of classes. Again, I am repeating, a Java program can have n number of classes. Class A, class B, class C, class D, class E, just like this way. But only one class consists main method, and that is called the main class. So far, the program that we have written is consisting only one class, that is main class. Today onwards, we are trying to write more than one class, rather different classes in one single program. So first, let me introduce this member variables and object, rather member variables and functions concept within a single class. So far we have learned single class concept. So we are trying to introduce first, let me share my screen. Hopefully, hopefully it is visible to you. So let me first introduce. I am creating my own single class, not consist more than one class, but I have data members and functions. So how we can use those data members and functions in my own class? Let me check. So I am giving the name of class this test83 because I have saved this program test83.java, and we know this name must be same with the class name. Hope you understood. This name must be same with this class name rather than main class name. So now in this class A, I am introducing two members, int AB, and there is a method. Say name of the method is int sum. Fine. This sum method is returning this sum method is returning an integer value. What it returns? It returns basically a plus b. I hope you understood this thing. I'm going to define a class. The name of the class is test83, which consists two data members, rather a and b, and one method. This method is basically returning the summation of a and b, nothing else. Now, under this same class, I'm writing my main method, public static void main string args. Now my question is, how can we use this this method sum, or rather this function sum, in this public static void main? Though they are in the same class, they belongs to the same class, main method and the method sum. These two methods are in the same class, but but a non-static method, keep it in mind, in Java, a non-static method cannot be called. Main is your static method because I have written public static void main. Sum, this is not a static method, right? It's a non-static method. So non-static method cannot be called, or rather cannot be used without creation of any object, right? So we cannot call this method sum, we cannot call this method sum without creation of any object of this class test83 where this sum function belongs. Again, I am repeating, I cannot call this method sum without any object of class test83 where sum function is defined, as because sum is a non-static method. I already posted a lecture regarding my static keyword. Go through that lecture to understand what is the difference between a static method and a non-static method. So here we cannot create any, we cannot call the function sum directly from main method. So that's why we have to create an object. The object creation line we all know. Let me explain once again. Say class name, that is your object name, new test 83. And earlier I mentioned I can split this line into this two. I can write this line into this by splitting into two lines. First line is test 83 OB and second line is OB equal to new, sorry, new test 83. That we can write. This two and the third line all are representing line number 10, 11 and line number 12. Line number 10, 11 is just merged in line number 12. So basically they are representing the same thing. Now let me explain once again what is the meaning of this line. What is this test 83 OB? Is it an object? Answer is no, it is not an object. What it is? It is basically a reference of class test 83. What it points? Initially it points nothing. When I am writing test 83 OB, it points nothing. Fine. What about this line? OB equal to new test 83. New is an operator in Java which is used to allocate memory, right? Which is used to allocate memory. And here this test 83 or this test 83, these two are nothing but a method because the symbol shows these two are functions or method. But this method name is same with the name of the class. Look, name of the class is test 83. Here also method name test 83. This method is test 83. So thing is that this is called constructor. So what is the definition of constructor? Constructor constructor is a special type of method fine. Constructor is a special type of method which returns nothing, not even void, which returns nothing, not even void. Fine. Name of the constructor must be same with class name and is used to, what is the purpose of using constructor? Is used to initialize the value of member variables. So it's a special type of method which returns nothing, not even void. Name of the constructor must be same with the class name, and it is used to initialize the value of member variables. Fine. So which are the member variables of our program? The member variables A and B in our program, because I consider two members A and B. Fine. Now my question is where this value gets initialized by using constructor over here, because I haven't written in any constructor. So far I haven't written any constructor, but I called this constructor test83. This one. I'm talking about this one. But I haven't mentioned, I haven't declared any constructor, because I have given the definition of constructor which is used to initialize the value of members. The members are A and B. We can create n number of object of class test and test83, and this class test83, all objects must have these two data member A and B that I already told in the definition of the class and object, rather definition of class. We can create n number of objects from a class, and all object must have that many members which you have declared inside a class. Here inside a class I declared two data members, that is A and B, and the n number of objects that we are creating from test83 class all should have this member variables A and B, and this sum method can only be applicable to the objects which are created from class test83, as because sum method is defined under class test83. So without any object we cannot call sum method. We cannot call sum method without any object. Object of which class? Definitely object of test83 class. Why? Because my sum method that I have given the definition, it is defined under the class test83. Hopefully this much is clear. So I haven't not yet I haven't so far I haven't called the sum method. I will call it gradually. So before calling it, what I am trying to do in this line, I am trying to create an object of class test83. So what I have written test83 OB equal to new test83. I mentioned earlier this is nothing but a what? It is not an at all an object. It is basically reference of class test83. So obj is nothing, ob not obj, ob is nothing but a reference of class test83. It is not yet an object. So when I have written new test83, so now constructor is being called, though I haven't defined any constructor so far, still the constructor is being called and the object gets created. So now my question is, if I haven't defined any constructor, from where this one gets called, this test83? The answer is very simple. Java calls a default constructor. It calls a default constructor, and which is used to create an object, that is new operator. It allocates the memory for an object. So new operator allocates a memory for an object, and this test83, which is default one, because I haven't initialized it, I haven't give the definition, so that's why this default constructor gets called. It is implicit calling. Better to say Java automatically calls it, though I haven't defined any constructor. So now object gets created. So when I have created this object, that means according to our theoretical knowledge, we have this two data member for this object. One is OBA, another one is OBB, because this class have two data members A and B, and I already mentioned if I created n number of objects from this class, all these objects have these two data members. So definitely OB object, if OB is an object, then OB object, now OB points to some memory location. Na? So now OB becomes object. In the second line, when I'm writing it new test 83, that means the object gets created and the memory allocation has been done. And that memory allocation is pointed by the reference OB. Try to understand. That memory allocation, that allocated memory is pointed by the reference OB. That's why OB is now, it's the only reference. It is basically pointing to an object. So OB now can be called as an object after creation of this object. Before that, line number 10, OB is nothing but a reference. Line number 11, OB becomes an object because OB is now pointing to an allocated memory space, rather an object has been created. Hopefully you understood this much. And when the object gets created, now OB has two data members A and B. How we can access this A and B? There is an operator called dot. To access data members of OB, we need to use write OB.A, OB.B. So say I am assigning value 10 for the data member A and data member B, say I am using 15. Hope you understood. What I have done, I have created an object of class test83. The name of the object is OB, and after creation of the object, what I have done, I have assigned the value of A and B. The value of A is 10, value of A member of OB object is 10, and value of B member of OB object is, say it is 15. And now if you call this method, and because the method is returning an integer, so I am directly call it inside println method, system.out.println. Earlier I mentioned the method sum cannot be called directly, rather without any object. So now object gets created, that is OB, and the same syntax dot, same operator we have to use over here to call the method sum on this object. To access data member for an object, we have to use dot. To access methods or functions, we have to use same operator dot for an object OB. So here what I have done, I have created an object OB. I have set the value OB dot A equal to 10, OB dot B equal to 15. That means OB data member has two, OB has two data members, one is A, another is B. I have set the value is 10, 15 for AB data member, and I have called the sum method on this OB object. Now try to execute. Yes, it gives the output 25. So now what we can say? We can say we can create n number of objects. Say I'm creating one more object. Say the name of the object is OB1. So another object, right? I'm assigning the value OB1 dot A equal to say 200 and OB1 dot B say equal to value 400. Now if you call this method, ob1.sum. How much it will give? Definitely 16,600, 200 plus 400. Fine. So we can create n number of object and we can call this sum method n number of times. Hopefully this much is clear that sum method cannot be called its own. We require an object to create the to call this sum method of this class test 83. It's because sum method is defined under class test 83. So what we have done so far, we have created an object, we have assigned the values of these two members, right? We have assigned the values of these two members, A and B, and we have created, we have called the sum method on that particular object. Now we are introducing one more method in this class. Say method name is setDim. It's a parameterized method. Say I'm giving the method name as int x, int y. These are the two parameters. So what it does, it basically assign the values of the members. I hope you understood. SetDim, a method, set dimension is basically, setDim is used for the purpose of setting values of the data members A and B. Fine. So instead of these two lines, if I call this method 10 comma 15, so what it will do, and say one more call is there, ob1 dot setDim, say 200 comma 400. What it will do, I mentioned each and every object that I am creating from class test 83 all must have these two data members A and B, as because this is class is nothing but a template. Nice. Class is nothing but a template. Nice. So each and every object have these two data members A and B, and setDim is a method that I declared or rather defined just now, which is basically used to assign the value of these two data members A and B. Nice. So I expect it will give the same result with the earlier one. Yes, it's natural because after after creation of the object earlier, what we have done, we are basically assigning the value of the members by using that dot operator. Now we are doing the same process by calling a method. The name of the method is setDim, which is basically it's a parameterized method. It takes two parameters, int x and y, which are basically passing these two integers to this method, and this method is basically assigning the value of to the data members A and B. So again, I'm giving you the rather recapping the topics once again. What I am doing here, I am creating an object. I am calling setDim method on that object to assign the value of the data members. So first object creation done, then value assigned to the data members, then I am calling the method sum. Nice. Now Instead of this definition, I'm commenting this part. Instead of this setDim definition, if I if I define a constructor, what I mentioned the name of the constructor must be same with class name. So just in place of the setDim, I'm writing same thing. Look, I'm writing the same thing, but instead of function name, I am writing class name, and definitely constructor have no return value. So that's why I haven't given any return type of the constructor, not even void. And I have definitely, and the definition part will be similar to the previous definition, that is a equal to x and b equal to y, because the task that we have done using the setDim method is basically it's a task of a constructor. We know the constructor definition. What is the last part of the constructor definition? It is written in the program. It is used to initialize the value of member variables. So basically the task which is done by setDim method is basically the task of a constructor. So instead of setDim method, we are now defining a constructor. Earlier, we don't have any constructor, so default constructor gets called. Now we have defined a constructor, and definitely the constructor is as because the constructor is parameterized constructor, we need to pass the value of member variables in this constructor 10 comma 15 it is for the first case, and for the second case the value is 200 comma 400. And now definitely the setDim method is not required over here to call, so I'm just omitting that part by commenting it. So what is the difference with this case and the previous case? What we have done in the previous case, try to remember. The previous case, first we created object, then we assign the value of the member variables of that object by directly calling the member variables using dot operator. On the second case that I modified by calling the setDim method. But in both the cases, first the object has been created, then we have assigned the value of the members by using dot operator or rather calling setDim method. But now when I am going to define a constructor and I am initialize the value of the member variables inside constructor, so the value of the member variables, try to understand, the value of the member variables gets assigned at the time of object creation. That is the difference between the previous case and this case. Previous case, value gets assigned after creation of object. Now value gets assigned to the member variable a and b at the time of object creation while the object is being created. That is the difference between initializing value of member variables using constructor or after creation of object. Fine. So we try to execute the program first, then we are moving to the next part. Giving the same result as previous, yes, is very much clear to us, hopefully. So now I'm moving to my next part of the lecture. What I have done here, I've written all the things under one single class, that is test 83. Fine. But it can be written in different class also. How? Let me modify the program. Say my class name is, consider my class name is A, and this part only class test83 consists the main method. Definitely the name of the constructor will not be test83, it should be A, right? It should be A. And when I'm calling the sum method, we have to create an object of class A, not test83. Earlier it was test83 because this method is defined under class test83. Now it is defined under class A. So we require an object of class A so that we can call sum method on that very object. And each and every created object of class A have to have these two data member, that is A and B. So now instead of test83, we have to create an object A, and definitely we have to call the constructor A. This much will be different. And there is no changes because ob.sum, definitely sum method is an object of class A now. Sum method, this it will be, it is ob is not now, ob is not a reference of test83. ob is now a reference of class A, and when I am writing new A, I'm calling the constructor A. That means ob is now pointing to an object of class A. And as because the constructor is defined, which is initializing the value of these two members, A and B, so that means 10 and 15 gets assigned to the object OB, which is the object of class A. And that as because OB is an object of class A, so we can easily call the sum method on OB. We can easily call the sum method on OB as because OB is an object of class A, not test83, right? We understand. So definitely for the second object also, it should be, the name of the object remains same. It should be the class A, and definitely the constructor A must be called. Now, if you run this program, we'll get the same output as previous. Look, yes. So we are what we have done, we have just moving, just removing the part of this member variables to another class. So I started my discussion that a program, rather, this is a program, test83.java. A program can have n number of classes. In my program right now, I have two classes. One is class A, another one is class test83. Fine. And it could have three classes, four classes, five classes, six classes, seven classes. It could have n number of classes. But there should be only one class which is considered as main. Which class will be considered as main? Under that class, the method main is defined. That is test83 in our program. That is our main class. Why? Because our main method is defined under test83. So I hope what is constructor, what is class, why we use constructor, how we can use constructor, how we can call a method, this much is clear to you. I'm giving you one more example. Say test 84, I'm giving the name of the program. so that it will be more clear to you. Say class, sorry, class box. This class box has three data members W, H, and D. You may consider this as width, height, and depth. Going to define a constructor of this. Say I'm going to define double x comma double y comma double z, sorry, double z. And what this constructor does is basically assigns the value of members. What are the members in our program? That is WHD. So W equal to x, H equal to y, and D equal to z. Constructor definition complete. We have one more method in this class. Say the name of the method is double volume. Right? What it returns? It returns W into H into D, width into height into depth. That is the formula of volume calculation. And this method is basically calculating the volume of the box and returning that value. Right? So as per previous, my main class name is test84. I'm going to write my own class, main method, static void main string. Fine. I'm going to create an object of box class, say box ob1 equal to new box, say 3, 4, 5 is the answer. Say I'm setting the parameter width 3, height 4, and depth 5. Fine. Next, I'm calling the vol method on this ob1 because ob1 is the object of class box and vol method is defined under class box. So that's why vol method can easily be called, according to the rule, the vol method can easily be called on the object ob1 because ob1 is an object which belongs to class box. So I hope this will give us the definition, rather the volume. So it's because double volume, volume is returning a double value. So I'm printing the value by using println method, system.out.println. Look, it's very nice. So I'm executing the program. Yes, 3 into 4 into 5, 16. It is coming. Right? So hopefully this much is clear. What is constructor, how we can use constructor, what is method, how we can use method, how we can write our own class in a program. This much is clear to you. Now, before moving to the next part, this is a constructor, right now? It's a box and it's a parameterized constructor. What are the parameters? X, Y, Z, right? What is WHD? These are the members of the class. If someone asks you, can I give the parameter name WHD? So instead of X, I am giving W. Instead of Y, I am giving H. Instead of D, sorry, Z, I'm giving D. So what with the definition? The definition will be changed. It will be look like this: W equal to W, H equal to H, and D equal to D. Is it feasible in Java? Look, one W, the left hand side W is basically what? This is the data member of an object. And what is the right side of WHD? These are basically the parameters. But when you are writing W equal to W, H equal to H, and D equal to D, compiler is unable to differentiate between this to W, H, and D respectively. So in Java, there is a keyword this. I have already discussed about this keyword in the another class, which basically represents the current object. So instead of W equal to W, I have to write this dot W equal to W, this dot H equal to H, and this dot D equal to D. So this is the one use of this keyword, which is used for the purpose of instance variable hiding. Which one is the instance variable? WHD. Fine. And right hand side WHD, these are the actually what? These are the parameters. So when I'm writing this dot W, what it means? W of current object, because I mentioned this means it's referred to the current object. So when this constructor is being called new box 345, that means I'm talking about some object. So what I am telling to say, what I'm trying to say in this line, I'm trying to say the W member of current object. That's why this dot W member of the current object equal to W. This W is the parameter W. The H member of the current object, H member of the current object is H, and the D member of the current object is the D, that is the parameter D. So this is the one use of this. It is the use of actually called instance variable hiding. When the name of the parameter and name of the member variables become same, then we have to take help with this keyword. Fine. Moving to the next part. That is, I mentioned earlier, rather in the discussion of object-oriented programming features, we mentioned the feature. We have talked about a feature which is called polymorphism. What actually polymorphism means? Polymorphism is basically called the same thing but in different variations. In Java, we have two type of polymorphism. One is compile time, another one is runtime. The compile time polymorphism is called what? It is called method overloading, and the runtime polymorphism is called method overriding. Method overriding is the implementation of runtime polymorphism, and method overloading is nothing but the compile time polymorphism. Try to understand. We already posted a lecture regarding runtime polymorphism, method overriding, when we discussed the topic inheritance. Today, we are going to discuss about method overloading. Earlier we discussed once, we are just repeating the concept so that it will be clear to you. What I am telling? I'm telling method overloading is the concept of polymorphism, that is better to say it's a compile time polymorphism. So we can define Java supports this polymorphism. That means Java supports to define Java supports to define Java supports to define same method name and same method name under a single class. Try to understand. Under a single class. Look, I have given more than one volume method. I am writing the definition of more than one volume method under one class under one class box. Fine. But but the method signature is different. What is called method signature? Which one is called method signature? This return type and the parameter list. Fine. Definitely a next question comes. If I if i keep the parameter list same, if I keep the parameter list same but only changes the return type, is it method overloading? Because I told Java supports the same method definition more than once, method name definition more than once under a single class, but the method signature must be different. The method signature means the return type as well as the list of parameters. Definitely next question comes. If I kept my parameter list unchanged but I changed the return type. Previously it was double, now it is int. Is it the example of method overloading? Answer is no. It will give you compile time error. Why it will give you compile time error? Because when these two volume methods can be called upon an object which belongs to class box, as per our previous knowledge that I discussed today. Again, I am repeating, both the volume methods is eligible or rather can be called on an object of class box because this two volume method is defined where under class box. So both these two methods are very much eligible, can be called on the object of class box. So if I call ob1.vol as previous or ob2.vol, next question definitely come, which method will be gets called? Because both the parameter list is same. Here no parameters. Here in these two definitions we have no parameters. So now definitely question comes, compiler confused. Which method will be gets called? First one or second one? So keep it in mind. You must have to modify the parameter list than others to implement method overloading. You must have to change the order of parameters, or better to say parameter signature than other definitions of the same method to implement method overloading. Otherwise, you cannot implement method overloading. You may change return type, you may not change return type. That is not very important, but the list of parameters must be different than others. Otherwise, method overloading cannot be successfully implemented. So now we can distinguish two calling, different two calling. If I give the definition, say I'm giving the definition system.out.println, say I'm printing the fresh definition, and I'm printing the value of x over there. So if I called, look, I'm calling sorry, I'm calling the volume method with the value 12. So it's integer value I have passed. Definitely the first method will get called, and where I'm calling this volume method with parameter without any parameter, that means second method being gets called. So try to execute and check it. Sorry, one more error is coming. One error comes from where test 84 new box will be one. Which line? Line number 13. There is a missing return statement. Sorry. It's a int vol. So definitely I have to return first definition. I have to give a return statement. Forgot to mention it. Directly I have printed the value of x. No, it is not possible over here. You may print, but you must have to return. You may print, but you must have to return. So better to return x. Build, execute file. Look. Yes. So when I'm calling the volume method with an integer value, the first method definition gets called, this one. When I'm calling the volume method on same object OB1, it is parameterless. So in that case, this definition being called. So this is actually method overloading. Under the same class, we can define more than one method with same name, but the list of parameters must be different. That's because, now I am coming to my last part of this discussion. That's because constructor is a special type of method. As because the constructor is a special type of method. So constructor also can be overloaded. Look, I'm going to define a constructor just like this. Box, no parameter. W equal to 5, H equal to 10, and D equal to say 15. Say 5, let us say. Fine. Look, when I'm creating another object, say box OB2 equal to new box, new box without any parameter. So OB2 gets created, and at the time of creation of this OB2, which constructor will be called? Definitely this definition, not this one, because this is parameterless call. So that's why this definition gets called, and the value of WHD of OB2 member is 5, 10 and D5. So if you call this volume method, parameterless volume method on OB2, how much result you will get? OB2 volume method I am calling. That means it must give 5 into 10 into 5. That means 250. That's because when this constructor being called at the time of creation of this object OB2, so what it will give? It will set the value of W. This definition gets called. Sorry, this definition gets called, and definitely W equal to 5. The value assigned to W equal to 5, H equal to 10, and D equal to 5. So 5 into 5 into 10. That means the result will be 250. Look, yes, 250 is coming. So hope I can understand you, can let you understand about the topic constructor overload. Now we are giving the last example of constructor overloading. Instead of any parameter, I am passing a reference, and I am telling the W will be equal to OB dot W, H equal to OB dot H, and D equal to OB dot D. What it means? It means when I am going to create an object by using this constructor, say I am going to create a third object, that is box OB3, sorry, OB3 equal to new box. Instead of passing values of WHD, I am passing one object, say OB2. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is I have passed an object as a parameter to this constructor box. And as I am passing an object to the constructor, now this reference OB, instead of OB, give this name as R. Says it's a reference. It reference R is pointing to that object that I have passed over here. And when I am talking about R.W, that means this R is basically representing that WHD which I have passed as a parameter in this constructor box. In this constructor box, I have passed an object, and what we are doing actually, we are just basically creating an object which is a clone of a clone of another object. Here we are going to create a clone of object 2. OB3 is nothing but a clone of object 2. The value of the member variable WHT of object OB3 will be same as OB2, because as per the definition I have passed OB2 as a parameter and I am setting the value of WHD same as R.W, R.H and R.D. What is R? It's a reference of class box which is pointing to an object. What object it is pointing now? It is pointing to an object of class box. Here it is OB2 that I considered. So that's why when I'm going to create object OB3, the member value of WHD, the members value, that is members at WHD, the members values of OB3 same will be same with OB2. What will be the value? 5, 10 and 5. So if you print the volume of OB3, you will get the same result of OB2 dot volume. Because what? Because the members of OB2 and OB3, the value of the members of OB2 and OB3 are same. Yes, look, this is the volume of OB2 and this is the volume of OB3. So we can say that we can prove here that an object can be passed to a function or a constructor just like this way to use it. So hopefully I can clear you the concept regarding class, object, constructor, method, constructor overloading and function overloading part. If you have any doubt, you may mail to me, you may ask any question. I'm stopping over here. Thank you for your patience.